Here we go!
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hopefully you are doing well. Thank you so much for coming along for this exciting episode of my live stream. I need to call this something. Troubleshooting Hour with John? I don't know. Is that what we want to call it? Okay. Audio's working on the live stream. Just following up here. Okay. I think I sound okay. Let me know in the chat if you're having any issue. I know that the music is louder than. I know that the music is a little bit louder than my voice typically is on the show, but I like to use my low registry to lull you to sleep on a Thursday morning. Hopefully you're doing well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Appreciate it. Today, I want to just talk about vMix a little bit. We kind of circle around to vMix every now and then, and we'll make some good use of our time today. Of course, we do have a non-sponsor today, Ember Mugs. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. Courtesy of Ember Mugs. I probably should change that slogan, but it was from, like 3 or 4 years ago. Back in the old days, and I won't say good old days, I'll just say old days, and here we are. We're still here, so good stuff. I am streaming over to the John O'Canute page. I am also streaming over the Keystone AV page if you're following over there. That is the company, my company, that my LLC, that we do network installs for AV networks, particularly Netgear AV networks. And so it's kind of my thing. It's what I do, but also I do some general networking troubleshooting as well. And I work for a couple of, we'll say a handful of clients at this point. One in particular that is a fairly regular gig, and that is fueling the build that is happening outside in my barn. So more on that in a second, but first, Randy, what is going on? You get props for being first in the chat. Winnipeg, just popping in here, listening to the live podcast on my way to work. Excellent. Always appreciate that. Good times, great oldies. On my, by the way, on my YouTube page, thank you for saying the word podcast. On my YouTube page, there is now a playlist from last week's show about Dante Controller, and we are doing some kind of advanced tips and whatever for Dante Controller if you're into the Dante world, audio world. And so there is a playlist there that's just now the highlights, the hits. It's probably 5 minutes worth of videos. So I distilled that whole hour and a half, 2 hour show down to about 5 minutes worth of video. And you can just go to the YouTube page, click on the playlists. It's actually listed as a podcast, which is an algorithm that YouTube is trying out, and we use it on another page that I manage. So I thought I'd give it a try here and see what happens. But yeah, that list is now put together and should be completely uploaded. I try and upload everything between shows, and so from last week's show, everything should be now uploaded that I edited out. So yeah, we shall see if that gets any traction. But there it is. It's nice, easy little videos for you to consume. Should be fairly straightforward. I was working on a little this little thing here on the screen, so I do need to encourage you to subscribe to the show. That just helps me out greatly. My Bird Dog John channel, which was separate from the Bird Dog channel, is almost at 1,000 subscribers. And no content has been produced on there for over 2 years. So I need to ask you, if you haven't done so already, to subscribe. If you're watching, that'd be great. But those of you who are in the chat, I know, have already subscribed, because that's how you get access to subscribing in the chat. You have to be subscribed for 5 minutes, and then you can talk. Hey, New Jersey here too. Good morning. What's going on, Stephen? Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for stopping on by as usual. Nice to have you guys on board. Good times. So, yeah, I did this little subscribe. Oh no, not this one. I did this little like, share, subscribe button. I don't really expect you to share it. I mean, you can if you find this shareable content, but really, it's more so about that big subscribe button in the middle. So, if you haven't done so and you're just watching on the fringe and you're not in the chat, hey, hit that subscribe button. That would be a great help to me as this channel kind of moves and grows. Love to have more of that. Hey, the edits are a great idea. Lots of gems in here, but the live shows are long. Yes, exactly. And I was thinking that that would be an easy way for people to find the highlights of the shows. You know, a 2-hour live stream is not something that you're going to try and scrub and look for content. So trying to chop it up into smaller stuff and throwing it in playlists so that people can easily find it. And then I have noticed that I have actually gotten a few. Welcome, by the way, but I haven't gotten a few. I have gotten a few subscribers from doing that. So it's not all about the subscriptions, but it certainly is helpful and motivating to see that people are interested. And so if that stuff is useful, then great. I'm glad to provide that. Glad to provide those things. So it didn't take me very long to cut those up. I actually have a fair bit of editing stuff to do, not for this show, but for my full-time job. I need to do it today. I'm out of time, so I got to do it today and get that done. And as you probably all know, Palm Sunday is this Sunday, Easter is next Sunday, and so this is the big, church weekends coming up. One of, if not next to Christmas, is probably the biggest weekend in the Christian church. So that's on the horizon. And I work for a church, so we don't go like crazy like some productions do, but I do need to do some new transitions and a few things that are not necessarily in my wheelhouse, and so I'm going to have to invest a little bit of time in getting that done before doing any of the other things that I need to get done around here, because, as they say, Sunday is a-comin'. So, good times, really useful. A couple of projects that I've worked on this week. So my kids were home yesterday, so I was able to, on Tuesday, get a couple of projects done that I had kind of outstanding, and I'll just kind of bring you guys up to speed. The first is, you may recall me talking about a network cabinet that I have here at the house. It is not an official network cabinet by any means. It is purely a place where I had a bunch of stuff coming into a closet where they expect you to put your internet router, your TV router, your DVR, and a few other things. Well, we don't do wired TV here in the Knutson home. We are a streaming family only. So I put in a network switch, as I do, along with my Starlink router, the Mocha transcoder, which is an actual TX unit. I mean, they're interchangeable. TX unit that then sends out to a splitter and then goes to the other rooms in the house, which gives me hardline internet. And I was able to get all of that kind of squared away here. So this is that. Let me show up here. This is that network cabinet. You can see my Wii remotes from back in the day. That Wii system is, 15 years old. Still working. Kids still play it. It's unbelievable. But anyway, so my network cabinet, I bought a little shelf. I bought that Omeda, which we did a show on, that SG3428X switch. And the reason why I bought that is it works with the Omeda ecosystem that I already have, but it has 10 gig SFP plus ports, has 4 of them on the other side, which are now hardlined out to the garage and tested. They do work. So great news. I now have fiber out to the barn. My apologies. Not the garage, the barn. And that's where my office and this studio will eventually move one day. So here is a look at that little very messy network cabinet, but some things have changed since that photo was taken. One is now that whole system is on battery backup, and so when the power goes out, my router does not shut down and restart, and those main switches, and you may have also seen there is a TP-Link ER605 router in there that gives me VPN and a few other options as well, but that is the main brain of the system. This is just a layer 2 switch in the system, but that's going to give me SFP plus connection over to another one of these, which is actually in this rack right here next to the camera, which will all be transported outside into my new office. So those 2 SFP plus ports, which will be single mode fiber, will plug in, and OS2 fiber, and then we'll be off to the races with rock solid 20 gigs with redundancy lag out to that space. Now, last week I tested it with a very old SFP switch. This is an old school Netgear switch. Shout out to Netgear from the late 1990s. The GS724T version 3 is this guy. And he is very old and is now retired out of my fleet. I do not use it. But it's pretty. It's blue. So it's pretty. And it still works. There's no need for me not to use it. So if I needed non-PoE ports. But the reality is, the truth is, I might throw it in the rack just for the pretty lights. But the reality is that if I'm going to buy something else, I'm probably going to be getting another Netgear switch. That would be a 4250 to expand the fleet inside the office. So more on that on another day. But that is the current state of things. And so that little network cabinet has now a battery backup inside, and it has all that equipment in there, along with a rack mounted for 4 Raspberry Pis, which are all up and running. Well, lo and behold, that if you put it inside what I think is supposed to be like a towel closet, to be honest with you, when you put all that stuff in there, it generates some heat. Who would have thought? So yeah, we got to do something about that heat mitigation. So what did I do? Well, of course, I took the door down and I cut a big hole in it and I installed a fan. This is actually a vent fan for AV Systems, a proprietary one that you can buy. And all you do is you take kind of a stencil and you trace out the hole you want to cut. You gingerly cut that hole on both sides of the door and then plug it in. This fan actually runs over a USB port, so you could even plug it into like a stereo system that has a USB port that powers on when you turn on the stereo, or whatever you want. It doesn't have internal temperature sensors because this was only like $30. It was not very expensive, but it is relatively quiet, and it has 3 fan settings: low, medium, high, and off. So if you supply power to it, it will turn on and will run. So, of course, using my SmartThings world, I put a temperature sensor inside of this little cabinet up above. So there's actually quite a tall cavity above this door. So I put it up on the frame of the door above the fan to measure the ambient temperature up, heat rises, so up high. And when it reaches 80 degrees, this little fan will now kick on because it is plugged into a Z-Wave enabled switch plug, and the USB plug is plugged into that. So now when the temperature sensor reaches 80 degrees, the fan kicks on, and when it gets down to 78.5 degrees, it turns off. And so it keeps it nice and cool. Yesterday, it turned on about midday and did not turn off until about 2 o'clock this morning. So the next thing that I need to do here is probably put a gasket on the door frame or on the door itself. So when you shut the door, it seals. And then the only air is the cool air on the floor that can come in under the door, come up circulate inside the cabinet, and then get pumped out by the fan. So that's the next thing that I'm going to do. But my wife was actually pleasantly surprised. She was like, "Oh, good! Like now it's not going to get too hot in there. I'm not worried about it being a fire hazard." And I was like, "Okay, good. I'm glad that you approve." So that was great. A great little update. Another project I did that same day. So this is Tuesday of this week. That same day, that afternoon, I had a meeting and I did some things. I got my work done. But then there used to be, actually, you know what? Let me see if I can find a picture of this. I'm sure I have one. So long ago, like we installed our television above our fireplace. We have a nice little like a piston system that comes down and handles all of the weight of the television and everything like that. But the problem I was having with that is, let me see if I got one other shot here. I really don't take very many pictures in my living room, evidently. Okay, here. Let's do this one. It's hard to see, but you can still see it here. I'll zoom in. I gotta get something better than that. What about this guy? Okay, this one. Here we go. All right. So although it's a little tricky to see, this is my living room, and you can notice that I've got this network cabinet here at the bottom, which houses my stereo. It has network switches, it has power, it has the Mocha devices in there, a bunch of things. But then you'll notice I basically have this wrap. Well, this is a bundle of cables that's going up and supplying HDMI to the TV. It's supplying the audio connection for the speakers, which are just passive speakers. So I've got 3 different cables there. I've got a switch up here, actually, which is a small Omeda managed switch, and it has PoE in it, and it's powering this little access point, which is a TP-Link Omeda access point, business class access point, which is covering most of the main level of the house, by the way. And then and this big giant cover that's covering up all those ugly wires. There's also optical audio from the television, which I don't actually think is working, and a lot of Ethernet cables and such kind of bundled in behind here. So one project that I worked on then that I was trying to get kind of sorted out was to clean all that up. And this photo was taken this morning. I ran panels and I ran it through the walls. And so now everything, there is no more giant white cable. This is just an opening, which is, there's a power plug right underneath here. So this is just an opening now, and this bundle of cables, which I could buy a little black wrap for or something like that, or even reuse the white one. But I think black would be a little bit more non-intrusive. But anyways, it all runs up through the wall. And then comes here to a keystone panel, which is has various plugs here on it. But you'll notice that the access point now plugs directly into the keystone panel. The optical cable, there's a keystone jack for that. There are 3 speaker cables. So these white wires are speaker cables. They now plug directly into keystone jack little push pins for that, which I've had for ages. And then there are 4 Ethernet ports. I've also moved the Mocha adapter then up here. Okay, so it's sitting here behind the TV now. So it comes in via coax behind the television, goes into the Mocha and converts it to Ethernet. That then runs over to this panel and comes down out one of these Ethernet ports into that PoE switch, which is down here, which then returns 3 more to this panel. One of them is plugged in here, one of them is plugged into this switch, and one of them is plugged in directly to the television. This little dumb switch, unmanaged switch, has SmartThings plugged into it, and it has the Chromecast 4K plugged into it, which has a physical Ethernet port connected to it. So now we're all hardlined. I should have run one more Ethernet cable, but quite frankly, I'm done with this project for now. It created a giant mess and took me the better part of 3 hours to do. So I'm happy it's done. I'm happy that bundle of wires is gone, and now it's just a matter of cleaning it up behind the television and making it look nice. So that is the latest project in what I was up to recently. This week, trying to get things kind of cleaned up. That was really good that was sorted out. Now, the last thing I want to show you is barn updates. Not much going on in the barn this week, but still something nonetheless. So we'll go here to the photo album called The Barn. And the latest things is basically insulation. I think I showed you guys this last week, but we're getting along with insulation here. And is there... Yeah, okay, so first and foremost is the recording space is getting insulation, but I also put TV backings here on underneath these boxes. And so there is going to be a TV hung between these 2 boxes. You know, the center of it will probably cover these 2. But I want to have it on the studs or on the blocks one way or the other. So I put that in. It's only a single TV, whereas in the actual office space there'll be dual TVs. So I installed that yesterday. You can see my Craig jig drill holes, which makes them uber tight to these studs, and then some insulation went in here. This one's open purely for light, because if I close this off, it's pitch dark in there. Like if I started putting insulation in this hole, and I was like, oh, never mind, I need the light. So I'll do the rest. There's still to the left of this picture still needs to be done. And This is insulation that's going on the exterior wall. So you've got to shimmy it between the interior wall and the exterior wall. And then we're going to be buying more insulation and putting R15 in between these 16-inch studs. So that's pretty neat. And then from here, this is the office space. And so I've started filling in the rest of these studs. Now this one is a little bit longer than 16. And so I'm either going to need to buy, actually I know I'm going to need to buy 24-inch insulation, but it is a little bit wider. So I'm going to have to get 24 inches for the ceiling. So I may put one run there, or I may just stud it out to 16 and call it a day. I don't know. But this is my door into the garage for now until it gets sealed up. So that part has been underway. And then this is the opposite corner by the window, which is, again, more insulations going in. This was done yesterday. You can see the boxes in the ceiling for lights and for a fan and a few things. So that's all coming along. And then yesterday evening or afternoon, 4 o'clock-ish, I was putting in the joists for the ceiling. So that was, this is in the recording studio. So this will actually, I think, have a hat channel in it and then drywall. This is isolated, right? So this is on the frame of this internal structure, but then I'm going to put a hat channel on there and have them isolate again. So more and more and more onward and onward. So it's probably overkill. Actually, I know it's overkill, but the hat channel will run this way, and then I'll have insulation in here as well. So it's coming along. It's, we're moving kind of quick, but it could take me forever to get all this done. So one moment. I just got a message from my wife. Just want to be sure that it's nothing urgent. So yeah, it is kind of coming along. It's nice to kind of get to the place where you can really see the changes happening. I know pictures probably don't do it very, very much justice, but things are moving along and we're making some progress. So I'm almost set for drywall. I could do... I'm actually almost set for drywall. I didn't take a picture of this, oddly enough, but the boxes that are in the wall here. Oh, well, here you go. I have been ordering probably $300 worth of soundproofing putty. This is trademark soundproofing, which is a fire-rated sealant for your wall penetrations, in particular your boxes, right? So light switches, power, and low voltage. Well, what these are putty pads, which are extremely sticky, made by Trademark Soundproofing, and there's 10 in a box, or you can buy them in packs of 3. I've used 10 so far, and now I am... Oh, and you can kind of see them here. I've used 10. I have another 10 in hand, and there are another 13 arriving today. So that will cover everything. I do need to... I think I'm going to go all the way around the box. They stretch a little bit, but you don't want to stretch them too much where you get a hole. But they basically cover... They create an air seal around each of these boxes, and then once the drywall goes up, then you take acoustical caulking and you go around each of your boxes as well. So there is no air that can get in between my office and each of these wall penetrations, which would basically then make all the mass that you put on the walls would make it irrelevant. I decided to do wall penetrations inside my recording space because we're going for best effort. We're not going for absolute, we're not going for some sort of ridiculous 68 decibel, rating. I really just want it to be best effort. So I did wall penetrations. I put these inside the recording studio around the boxes, and then I am going to seal it up real tight so no air can get in or out of that studio without me doing it. So we will have an air exchange system in there that will be all airtight. So that'll be fun to dream of and figure out how to do, but one step at a time, everybody, one step at a time. So those boxes are getting basically acoustic treatments, and then beyond that, we will be we'll be one step closer to drywall, which is really what I'm trying to say. hey, how many days per week do you get to spend on these projects? So it's not really days, it's more like hours. I try and spend 1 to 2 hours out there every day if I can, depending on what we've got going on. Sometimes that's not possible. But at the very least, I'm usually done working here in my office between 3 and 4, so I can be out there from 4 to 6 if I have the materials to work. But, now that I've got all the tools out there and everything's kind of set up to work, once I decided, for example, to do the ceiling joists, it's just a matter of moving the ladder around and getting them up there. And, I've got a framing nailer, so it's like boop, boop, put in the nails, line it up, measure it, boom, boom, put them in. So it doesn't take too long, but I am doing most of it myself. I haven't actually had anybody here to help me with it, now that I think of it. So everything you've seen, with the exception of half of the big 12-foot wall that separates the garage from the rest of the space, with the exception of that, I've pretty much done it all myself, which is crazy. I'm trying to think, did I have anybody come? Nobody's come yet, so it's all me. Which is daunting, but also extremely satisfying to know that I've done most of this myself. And you just chip away at it. There's no I gotta be in next week. There's none of that. I'm hoping to be in by June. If it's July, I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. If it's October, that's a bummer. I've lost some time, but again, I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. So that's fine. We will deal with it. And it might be I can't do anything because I don't have the money to buy the drywall or hire the guy to. I'm going to hire drywallers because that's way too much drywall for one guy to do. I will break my back doing that crap. So hire some professionals that can do it. And we'll roll with it. Okay, let's talk about vMix. So vMix has this really cool feature that is, I think, kind of here. Let me backtrack. vMix has a lot of cool features, and this network buffer is one of them. But when you get to a position, which is a good problem to have, vMix, well done, that you have so many cool features that most of them go undersung. They don't necessarily garner a lot of attention, and there's not a ton of stuff out there about your network buffer options. But in the advanced settings of the actual stream settings, so at the bottom of vMix, there is a button that says stream, and next to it is a cogwheel. When you click on that cogwheel, it will open up a screen that will look something like this. And these are your stream settings, okay? Whoops, shouldn't show my that key on there. So these are my stream settings, and on here there is a advanced option. Now, because I'm currently streaming out, I can't click this wheel. These settings are locked because I'm currently streaming. But inside here, if you click on the quality settings, there is going to be a screen that basically says what sort of network buffer do you want to have. Now, I have never manipulated that option, but apparently I need to get that sound clip, but I've never manipulated that option. And when I went to look at it this past week, the option was set to 2 seconds, which is basically no buffer. Okay, a 2-second buffer is nothing. Typically, you want to set some sort of buffer, but if you have amazing upload speeds, you may not need it. What the network buffer, as far as I can tell, does is it encodes your video and holds it in memory cache on your machine, and then sends it off to YouTube. Okay? Now, this is in an effort to not lose any bits that go up to YouTube, but to create a solid stream. Now, why did I go down this path recently? Well, for the soundstage that I work with, I have a Resi encoder. And Resi has been doing some interesting things over the past year, over 2026. And one of those things is it's trying to, I think it's trying to drum up more money. And it's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but they are actually constantly contacting their current clients with, hey, we have these other features that you're welcome to pay for. So that's fine. That's what businesses do. It's not a big deal. But it really got my brain thinking about what is it that the Resi encoder does, and what are the options when it comes to what other things out there that could maybe be comparable to that. Now, at the soundstage, we rarely have an outage, internet outage or power outage, mostly because the power is all run off of solar panels, which is on battery backups. And so the batteries are charged at all times. And if the power were to go out in Brentwood, Tennessee, we would still be operational. The soundstage, everything would run for probably another couple of hours. And we never are there we're never live for more than 2 hours ever. So we're covered by battery backups. Oh yeah, and then all of our equipment inside network racks are also on battery backups, and so big ones. So we're covered, okay, multiple times. So we're never going to really have a problem with power. But the issue that we're probably going to run into is if our internet service goes out. And I actually don't think that Resi would help us in that instance, because if the internet service does go out, it will likely go out for multiple hours. And so it doesn't make a lot of sense to invest a lot more money inside bigger or larger Resi encoders, but instead probably moves to something like Peplink, which does Peplink routing, but then it does, automatic failover of internet services should your internet go out. And so we run on United Communications, which is a Tennessee company here, and we have business class internet, which is 1 gig up and down. And it is amazing. I mean, we can basically go 4K at this point without really having any issue. And the residents that live in the home like the fast internet option. Anyway, lots of things to talk about there, but it works really well most of the time. However, we have had a couple of outages, and it's known outages, and they work to restore it, and it comes back on in a couple of hours. Well, that's all well and good during the week. The major problem that we have is Sundays, and the Resi encoder is operational primarily on Sundays. We don't really use it for anything else. Even when we do pre-recorded sermons or lessons or songs or things like that, we record them locally to hard drives plugged into our Blackmagic ATEMs, and then we ship those off to cloud, and then I render them here in my home, which is 45 minutes from the soundstage. So there's not really a lot of the reason why we have Resi, it's been rock solid the whole time, but I don't know if we're using it. You know what I mean? Like it's a product that we have that I'm not entirely sure we're using, which then sent me down a rabbit hole late last week on Friday about what other options are there out there. And then I stumbled across a feature in vMix called network buffers that basically holds the data local and then ships it up to the cloud. And you're able to basically buffer up to 120 seconds, so 2 minutes, of video locally on your computer before shipping it up, which is what the buffer is on Resi. Now with Resi, it is a resilient code, meaning that you ship it to Resi's cloud service, and then the cloud service is linked to all of your destinations. And so YouTube, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on X, if you're on all these other places, you are connected that way. And so depending on how many destinations you have and you need to have, you can send it any of those ways. So then my brain started thinking, well, what is, if we're not really using it, is this something that maybe we could build a machine and run it locally? And then when I found out that, hey, vMix actually has a feature that's similar to this, I started navigating things in my own stream because, as you know, in weeks past, I have had network buffering issues where my stream freezes up, and mostly, we believe, that it's because I'm on Starlink, and Starlink has to switch satellites. I mean, it's a function of the service, and I'm cool with that, but if there's a way for me to fix it on my side of things, yeah, let's do that. Let's test it out here. So today's show is actually on not a 2-second buffer, but a 20-second buffer. And what's really neat about that is I went into YouTube and it was quite literally 20 seconds delay from the stream that was going on here, like my live stream that's happening on my screen right now inside vMix, to what I was watching on my iPad. It was roughly 20 seconds. And so I'm on a bit of a delay. There's not really much delay then on the YouTube side, which I think is odd, or perhaps the network buffer is not working. I don't know. But I did set it that way inside our stream settings so that it would provide some sort of buffer that's going up to YouTube. So far, so good. And in my research for this, it said if you've noticed inside vMix that your stream button flashes yellow or any of your streams, so I actually stream 3 places, over to Twitch for some reason, and then to 2 YouTube destinations. If you are streaming to those, if you notice that they're blinking yellow and you know, off and on, and you're getting reports inside YouTube that you have poor stream health and all of that, increasing the network buffer can help that. And so my brain has one roadblock that it is not able to figure out why it would fix it. But bear with me here as I sort through it, and maybe you can explain it to me better than the interwebs have been able to. I now have 20 seconds built into my show that's being stored here, and it's being sent up to YouTube, I guess, in packet succession. I'm not too sure why, if Starlink drops the upload speeds from 20 to 3, why having a buffer at home would be helpful. Because should it not still break my YouTube stream, because YouTube is not building a buffer, it is just taking the packets it's getting and turning it around and sending it out, as I understand it. So there's not a built-in buffer on the YouTube side. So if the internet connection, if I'm building a buffer at home and the internet connection slows way down and the packets are building up at home, right? Why would it fix the stream health going to YouTube? Would it not still drop or buffer if Starlink switches over? Now, where I think this could really be advantageous is at the soundstage. Because if we have actually a 2-minute delay with Resi already. So if we were to change over and use a vMix machine and then run a 2-minute delay or a 120-second delay on vMix, and then if our internet service for some reason goes down and we have a Peplink backup, we could then, the service could switch over to Peplink, you know, while we're waiting for internet to get restored. Switch over to Peplink on a secondary service, probably cell coverage or Starlink, and then the buffer then would pause, right? We'd have 2 minutes. Again, my brain is like, why would we have 2 minutes if it's built up at the soundstage? That 2 minutes needs to go somewhere. But anyways, it would give us time to switch over to the Peplink cell network and then pipe that information back out, and it would flood. So maybe you understand more than I understand what is going on here, because I'm trying to figure out how the network buffer actually helps slow upload speeds to YouTube or to Twitch or whatever. Now, as an anecdotal piece of information, we have been running on a 20-second buffer today, not a 2-second buffer, which is what it normally is. We've been running on a 20-second buffer, and I have yet to see any problems in vMix. We are 38 minutes into the stream, plus I did a 15-minute pre-show. I haven't seen any drop packets. YouTube is reporting excellent health. No, just a few warnings with bitrate because they want 6,400 kilobits, and I'm only sending it 3,000. But there's no issues there on the YouTube side, and I haven't seen vMix do its usual blinking of the yellow light. And so perhaps it's real. Perhaps that network buffer is sorting it out, because again, from forums and things that I've been researching on, basically says the network buffer will smooth out poor upload speeds if you're in an area. start with 15 or 20 seconds. And if you continue to have problems, increase it to a minute and see if that fixes it, and then kind of go from there. Okay, hold here for a second while I catch up in the chat. What's going on, Angus? Good morning. Hopefully you're doing well. Oh, and GoWeb's here as well. All right, whole party's here. What's going on, GoWeb? Greetings from India. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for stopping on by. I expect it would still break on the YouTube side, but vMix would give you longer before erroring out. That is, of course, no more than a guess. See, that's my logic is too. So then I thought, what happens if you were to run vMix in the cloud, right? So you run an AWS server and you fire up vMix and you put a network buffer there and you put a network buffer on your vMix instance locally. So you're just using vMix. So we ship RTMP or whatever SRT up to vMix in the cloud, and then vMix in the cloud turns around and sends it to your destinations. I suspect that setup would be a whole lot cheaper long-term, weekly, than paying for a resilient stream from a provider. Because the resilient stream is a turnkey solution, and so you're paying for that premium. But once you get to this level of, thinking the process through, I think you could run dual vMix. You could run, because you get 2 instances per license anyways. So you run one on a server that's in your soundstage, and then you send that stream via RTMP, SRT, whatever you want to do, up to vMix that's running in the cloud with a 1-minute buffer. And then in vMix in the cloud, you do a 1-minute buffer, and then you send that on. And then if your peplink needs to switch over, if you lose connection, you have basically you could have up to 4 minutes if you wanted to create that bumper. So I think it would work. I think in my brain, that is your resilient stream. So as long as you are going from vMix soundstage up to your AWS server and then AWS out to your destinations, I think that would essentially be it. And from what I can tell, it would cost you about $1 a week to run it, for $1 an hour a week to run that instance. So $2 a week for your live stream. So let's just say $10 a month to Amazon services. From what I can tell, if you had a beefy GPU machine up in the cloud, I think that would be pretty great. I'm pretty sure the terms and conditions state it's one computer at a time for those 2 activations. Oh, interesting. Well, I wonder if there are any use cases, or if anybody's, I'll ask the vMix guys when I go to NAB, if there's anybody doing something like that. Because that's fine. I mean, 2 licenses is not the end of the world for us. Still massively cheaper than what we're doing. But it would be very interesting to know if that would then create your resilient stream. Or you do a 2-minute buffer on the soundstage side, and you do a 30-second buffer, up in the cloud, basically giving you 30 seconds to stream, or vice versa, 30 seconds at home in the soundstage, and 2 minutes or a minute and a half, or 2 minutes up in the cloud. And that way you always have 2 minutes of, as long as you're hitting that AWS server in the east, you'd be good, right? This would be a very interesting project to try and get. Would you even need? You wouldn't even need the pro version of vMix up in the cloud. You could probably use the free version, right? You're just turning around and sending it to encoders. Now, granted, it depends on how many destinations you want to go to. Let's head on over to the vMix website, and we will find out what versions there are. Products, the vMix software. Download vMix, pricing. Where are we here? Purchase. There we go. All right. So, over on the vMix website, we've got basic HD is $60. Free updates for 12 months. They're all that way. total inputs 4, we would have 1. Camera NDI inputs 3, we would have 0. Max res 1080, that's fine. Recording 1, channel overlays, streaming, including 5 simultaneous live streams. So that's so $60 is basically what we're looking at right this moment. And then we'd probably do a 4K version, and we wouldn't be sending 4K, but we would have all these other options then to then you could use vMix Caller locally. Yeah, I mean, this is okay. So for under $1,000, not even, for under $800, you could have all the software you need. You could create a rack-mounted server that would be a Windows machine. You could probably do that for, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000, and then unless of course RAM prices are still through the roof, and yeah, I mean, this would be such a fun project. And then you get a dual deck link card, right? So that would be your ingest, your SDI ingest from your studio system, and then up to the cloud. The only other thing then is to automate all of this. So you would do that inside Companion, which means that it would auto start the stream from vMix, and it would auto start the stream after 30 seconds or whatever your delay is. I guess it could start them at the same time. Anyway, you start the stream, and then you start the stream in the AWA service, and off you go. Does it offer that? Let's go over to BitFocus buttons. vMix, does it allow you to connect to a service that's in AWS? You would think. AWS instant. So maybe. Maybe. vMix. I don't know, but it's a great, it's a good question for the vMix guys to see. This is the one that I have. So, yeah, possible. It's possible to do that. But I think that this would be a fun way to control the entire stream all the way. And then when you're ready to go to 4K, it's just a simple update to this piece of software, right? And then once you're done, you could even automate the power down the AWS service, and you're done. That's it. You could even automate the whole crap out of the thing. Automate the turn on, but then you do manual shutdown with the button. So, that'd be so fun. Figure all that out, get it all to work. We don't have any sort of like immediate emergency. I think our contract is up in December, and so we'll definitely be looking at this option at NAB, and this will be something that we will be navigating with you guys for sure on the show. That's for sure, is me trout. I've heard of a few people using cloud-based vMix. It's a pretty slick solution. SRT connections between vMix machines with big buffers should be good and reliable. Right? That's what I'm thinking. Like, SRT is so lightweight to begin with that you should be able to fire it up inside of the streaming option or RTMP or whatever. RTMPS for YouTube. They do SRT, right? Yeah. Let's go to settings here real quick. There's an option, right, under, outputs. Here we go. So, yoink, let me just clear off my screen here real quick and bring you back over. So here, under outputs, this is inside vMix. This is the 4K version, by the way. So when I was leaving Bird Dog, somebody bought me a copy of vMix, and I'm out of focus. Ahoy! Why am I out of focus? Who knows? Let's see if I can get my camera to focus on my hand. Uh-oh. What's going on here? Is my autofocus dead on my camera? Boy, that's weird. How did it go out of focus? All right, well, if I go back here, I'm in focus. So this is the, or am I? No, now I'm fuzzy again. There we go. Okay, now we're back. Sorry, everybody. Now for something completely different. So here inside of vMix, you can turn on SRT for the outputs that you want, which is pretty crazy. SRT, set it as caller listener, rendezvous, host name, port name, latency. Oh, that's so cool. You just set it up right here inside the outputs and then be done with it. So you need a good GPU to do this sort of stuff, but it's definitely doable. You would think that those settings, by the way, are in that spot, but as Angus has informed us, it's in an odd place. It's not on the streaming window. It's true. It is here under outputs. So you go to your system settings, outputs, and then you just turn on the SRT, and you could output anything you want. See, the other thing about NDI is you could then create multi-viewers inside of vMix and then send those multi-viewers out via NDI and then just connect decoders to it, which I'm halfway tempted to get my hands on a Play Pro, because the TV that's inside the recording space that I was telling you about earlier in the show, where is that screen? This one. That TV that's going to be mounted right here is going to be connected via NDI. There's 2 network ports that are in this box. One is going to be for NDI, and one is going to be for a camera, an NDI camera. Here's a question that I'm going to throw out there, and my prior allegiances aside, I'm still on the fence about what camera to put in here. I'm really tempted to get, don't scoff at this, I'm really tempted to get a Marshall camera, because it's just a POV camera, and it just needs to be a simple camera. But the Mackie Live, which I have not actually really closely looked at, the Mackie Live is an option. Unfortunately, you have to buy an $80 PoE adapter for it to get it to take PoE, which an $80 PoE adapter, like, I've never seen a PoE adapter at $80. Get out of here. So it's USB to PoE. I think you may be able to not buy the proprietary. I don't understand why accessories have to be so stinking expensive, just in general. But USB-C to PoE adapter. So check it, guys. I think you could buy a Cable Matters PoE to USB to PoE adapter, and charge that camera for $20. Actually, it says Ethernet adapter with charging port, but still, that's what I would need. I need internet to it, because I don't want to use Wi-Fi. Sorry, I just don't. I'm not interested in Wi-Fi, NDI over Wi-Fi. Not interested. I have been working on. This is supposed to be PoE. Why is it not showing me? I have worked on several projects since my Bird Dog days that were for AV installations. And I am still a firm believer that Wi-Fi is not the correct solution when it comes to audio, video over IP. It just isn't. It just isn't, guys. It just isn't. It's a cute gimmick, but it is not. If you're, I can understand if you need a shot of the crowd and latency doesn't matter or whatever. But even then, if you're doing concert venues or whatever and people are singing along, you want their mouths to match up with the music. You don't want it to be super delayed, because at the very least, it makes the girls in the front row look like they're tripping on acid because they're singing 3 seconds delayed. So you want all that stuff lined up. as best you can. So hardline or proprietary, Teradek makes some amazing, very expensive stuff that goes over Wi-Fi, but it's all SDI based. So I need to find, a PoE, USB-C PoE adapter that basically could provide power. Anchor has one in here. Is it PoE or is it just the one? I think this is the one that I have. Amazon. Anyways, I don't understand why the accessory needs to be so stinking expensive. So the Mackie Live, which is relatively inexpensive camera in the NDI world, needs you to plug it in with an adapter in order for you to get Ethernet to it. It doesn't have a physical Ethernet port. So that automatically kind of pushes me to the Mackie Pro if I'm looking at that line of cameras, which does have PoE built in, and it does have a built-in Ethernet port, and it's not trying to do something weird with Wi-Fi. So I think that is what makes the most sense for this space, is to have a Ethernet PoE enabled NDI camera that's not a PTZ. It's just a POV that's mounted up in the corner or above the TV or something like that. That will then give me a shot of the talent inside of the studio. Okay. And then there's 2 Ethernet jacks there. The TV will be on Wi-Fi, but I'm not planning on streaming Netflix to it there'll be no reason for me to watch TV in here because I'll have 2 larger TVs in the office. And so if I'm going to hardline something, I'm hardlining those televisions, not this one. And then there's power up here as well. So that TV will likely get some sort of NDI decoder. And so far on paper, I've been very impressed with the Play Pro. I actually like it a lot. I think from what I see and what I will see, hope to see at NAB, I did not mean for that to rhyme. What I will see there, I hope that will be a done deal. That I'll be like, yep, this is the decoder that I want. I will eventually probably have 3 of them for all 3 televisions in this space so that I can pick and choose what NDI sources to put up there on the screen. They'll also have HDMI connections, but I actually think I want to utilize NDI more and then use the API to change the sources. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So we'll see. We'll see if that makes logical sense once I see the product in action, and also to make sure that it's going to work. So $80, yeah, that's nuts. I agree. Now, granted, it's a PoE Ethernet adapter for USB-C for the Mackie, but I do think $80 is just insane. Yeah, USB PoE adapters on Amazon. I use them with the Bird Dog Play on a semi-regular basis, and so did I. The only issue I think there is the ones that I use for Play Pro, I would plug in a USB for power, and then I would plug in an Ethernet port to the Play. And I don't think that it was power and Ethernet into USB-C. It was a breakout. It was PoE Ethernet to USB-C and an Ethernet jack, right? So it was a splitter, not a combiner. But anyways, we'll figure it out. Hey, I wonder if Wi-Fi 7 will change things. We say that about every Wi-Fi iteration. Here's the thing about Wi-Fi. Although the protocol is standardized, okay, so Wi-Fi 6 was a massive upgrade from Wi-Fi 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and so on, okay? Those Wi-Fi standards were big jumps forward and in stability and usability and wall penetration and all of that stuff. The thing about Wi-Fi is it's always 2 generations behind the standard Ethernet connection. 2 generations, not 1. It's not on the cusp. It's not on the heels. It is 2 steps back. And I don't mind doing 1080p over Wi-Fi, but I do mind the fact that I can do 8K signals over Ethernet. And we can't do that yet with the NDI world reliably and something where I actually want to watch it. So I don't know. I just don't know. I'm not on board yet with the I'm just not on board yet with video over AV going Wi-Fi unless it's a non-critical, non-used shot. You know, if it's an audience sitting and listening, sure, that doesn't make any difference. Doesn't make much difference. A few seconds delay is not a big problem. But I do find that anything that's live, that's synchronized with what's going on in the room, you can't use it. And to the fact, by the way, these companies that I work with now, I asked them about NDI just because I'm curious as to from an installer stance, and they all just say, you got to mess with the latency stuff, and that's just too much of a headache for us. And that's it. That's the end of the conversation. I'm just not interested because you got to work with the latency. And like, we have a solution that's more expensive, but we know what we're going to get every single time. Adding Wi-Fi into that conversation is like a wild card, because again, the thing that I meant to say here, by the way, Stephen, was the standard is always 2 iterations back in terms of best case scenario with Wi-Fi, but there is no standard practice for installation of Wi-Fi access points that is sanctioned by the Wi-Fi gods, okay? So that means I can install access points in my office to no standard, because there isn't one. Meaning that, like, where do access points go? What is the required decibel ratings, on a device before you need to add another access point? How far apart do they need to be? What's best practices? What's the cabling requirements? There's really very little standard, which means that you can put in an access point every 50 feet. They're on different bands. They're properly managed and gridded and meshed and all that, like self-healing and everything. And I can put in one in an entire theater, and we both install Wi-Fi. One of us did it very poorly, and one of you really overdid it, probably. But there's no standard. There's really no, like, this is what the standard is. And until that happens, until the backbone gets standardized, there's really no way then for us to say Wi-Fi enabled devices, operate at this level because we have a standard practice when it comes to Wi-Fi. So there are some open-ended problems with installing Wi-Fi and the fact that anyone can do it. Not saying anyone shouldn't be able to do it, saying that there is no white paper from, again, the people who are ever sanctioning Wi-Fi 7 and saying, with Wi-Fi 7, an access point should be installed when it drops to X amount of decibels, and and then it should be every 6 channels, and it should be whatever. So that whole pattern, until that becomes widely adopted as the standard for Wi-Fi, I think that doing audio video over Wi-Fi is kind of at will. And they're like, well, you could set up your own proprietary Wi-Fi access point that's closed and hidden. And yeah, you can. You can. You can also just plug it in with an Ethernet cable and have 2 generations ahead of Ethernet. So here is a new voice over on YouTube. This is, I'll just say KLIKW2N. Hi. Why does the BirdDog Play decoder lag when receiving a 1080p 50 stream from a BirdDog Studio encoder? All right, so great question. This is I'm going to dust off my NDI knowledge here. A couple of things could be happening. You could be introducing lag at the encode. So we are encoding SDI to NDI on your BirdDog Studio, which, by the way, is the OG encoder of all time. That thing, I wish they would resurrect that exact build, find somebody who could build it again and put in the 4K option and just build that thing. But good for you that BirdDog Studio is still being used. There is a little bit of latency that is introduced at the encode, okay, because we are literally taking a signal and running a process on top of it on the FPGA and then outputting that via network card. Now, it's very minimal, but we're introducing a little bit of latency there. Then you're bringing it across your network, and the network packet stuff has been pretty standardized these days with the introduction of Netgear AV IP networks. But if you're not using an AV IP network and you're just taking it across a data VLAN or something like that, there may be path problems or latency latency introduced by the actual physical connections between whatever the path is, and especially if there are any unmanaged switches on the network, or if there are, and the reason for that being is unmanaged is taking those packets and spitting it out all ports, much like a hub used to. You get around that by having a smart switch, which is also not recommended for NDI installations as far as I'm concerned as a network guy. Don't use unmanaged, don't use smart switches, mostly because they are network aware, but they're not technically layer 2, like true layer 2 managed switches. So I would go there next. So make sure that all the switches on the VLAN that the packets are going over, there are no unmanaged and there are no smart managed switches, and that you're using preferably a reputable AV over IP network as well. Then you're going to get a guarantee between when the packets actually hit the silicone back of the network and transfer over, and whether you're using however your network design is. So if it's a star pattern, that means you're only going to do 2 hops max. If it's spanning tree and you've got switch upon switch upon switch upon switch, that means that packet has to be read and transmitted across that layer 2 network, across all the switches that you have to travel to. So my recommendation is a spine and leaf, which is basically you have a core switch that everything comes off of. And if you are, and I'm out of focus again. And if you are in a headroom that you've got 2 switches and you can't trunk those back to the core, that you auto lag those over at least 10 gigs worth of connections between those 2. So we have our core, we have it going off to a headroom. In that headroom, I've got 2 switches. I SFP plus as many of those together as I can, and then I auto lag and trunk those together, well, auto lag them together so that they make one logical connection, and there's really no bottleneck between the backbone. So then we eliminate any sort of lag there. All right. Then on the decode side, so we have a bird. Now you said bird dog play. Okay, so this is probably the OG play. This device is basically, it isn't proprietary, but it is basically like a small Raspberry Pi, the actual board inside. And so there is a decode process that's happening there that is also, it works just fine for 1080p signals. I think 30 is the limit. Oh, you said 50. So maybe 60 is now the latest. I haven't seen a bird dog play unit since I left the bird dog office. So I suspect that you may see less lag if you send it a 25 stream. And that would be the test that I would offer you. Change the encoder, the Bird Dog Studio, to run 1080p 25, or whatever your source is if you're just running an auto. Change it to 25 instead of 50, which is literally half of the packets that a 1080p 50 stream would do, and see if it catches up. See if the lag isn't as predominant. You're sending a lot of packets to that little board that's inside that Bird Dog Play for it to decode, and it is probably needing time to decode them. And so if we are, if our network is ideal, and your Bird Dog Studio, I don't actually have no questions about that product because it was great, is great, still one of the OG of all time devices. But the decode is also going to be in question here. And you just say lag. You don't actually give me a metrics like how long of a lag, how many milliseconds are we talking. With NDI, there is a lag. But the way that you can verify it, the difference, is to take a computer that's on that network that your NDI signals are on and open Studio Monitor. And if there is a noticeable difference between Studio Monitor, which is able to decode pretty much immediately, decode your video source from your studio, and there's a lag on the screen, we can almost be certain that it is not your network and that it is not the encoder. It is more likely that it is going to be the decode side. And the test would be, are we sending it too many packets for it to really be able to do it quickly? I don't know what the official numbers are on whatever the decode lag is on the Bird Dog Play. I'm hoping that it's a lot less on the Play Pro, but I will find out in April, which is just a few weeks away, man. So I don't know if that answers your question or if it just gives you more ideas to troubleshoot, but you may see a reduction if you send it half the packets. It's basically half the packets per frame, right? So if you're sending it 1080p 25 or you're sending it 1080p 50, the other thing about the 25 and 50 standard here, so we're talking about European and Asian standards. I don't know if this is a pure guess, okay? I don't know if those standards are actually encoding 50 or if it's encoding 60 and dumping 10 frames. Or 10 frames. I just wonder. I don't know. I have no basis for this claim, okay? No basis, and I'm probably wrong. I'm wrong a lot, by the way. That's why I'm in troubleshooting. Because I'm cool with being wrong, because then eventually I'll be right. You hope. I wonder if it's doing a 1080p 60 process, because I believe that the Play was designed in the States. I believe the software that it runs was done in America. I wonder if it's doing 60 frames and dumping 10. Or deleting 10. That would also introduce latency, that process. So there you go. I don't know. I could be wrong. I might be wrong. I'm likely wrong, but I don't know. A cool way to check is to change it to 1080p 25. It would also be then, if that theory is true, it would be doing 1080p 30 and dumping 5. But it should cut your lag down by half. It should, if that's what's going on. I don't know. But again, I'm happy to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. I seriously don't know. And it's been a long time since I've talked to I don't even know who the engineers are over there, because the one that I really knew well is no longer there. So I don't really know who's writing the software. Okay. It is 11:15. And the Easter season is upon us. So I'm expecting a bunch of deliveries today from Amazon. Mostly things that I've ordered yesterday, things that I ran out of that I need today. So they are out for delivery somewhere between 1:15 and 4:15. That's a pretty good window. So they should be at my house today. And that would be great. If they show up, perfect. And we will kind of get after more of the barn build. I'll have some more updates for you next week. I don't really know what I'm going to be talking about next week. One thing that I did in the barn is... Where's my photos? One thing that I did right here is I installed external a switch for a light. Oh, I don't even have a picture of it? Get out of here. I thought I took a picture of it. Maybe I did and I didn't add it to the barn. This one's not in there. So yes, there's a good chance I did not add it to the barn folder. I'm putting a light outside. Oh, it's not in here. Okay, so I didn't take a picture. I'm adding a light to the outside, and one of the ideas that I have is, because it's a recording studio, I'm thinking about putting a Z-Wave LED light in there, and then having it just on when I'm in there, it's just on white. But then when we are recording, it could be red. And then when it's safe for people to come in, it could change green. So thinking of ways to do that. I think that'd be kind of a fun little side project. But to set up smart things to adapt to when it is we're recording and when it is we aren't. Maybe there is a module inside in Companion for what's the program I use now? It's been a while. I keep talking about Ableton. Ableton. Is there Audinate Audio AWS Ableton Live? Allen and Heath, AI Media. I'm not seeing anything for Ableton necessarily. Cable Matters. That's funny. Okay, so nothing here. It's not totally down and out yet, but we'll see if Ableton has something like that, because, you know, when we hit record, it would be cool if the light turned red, and then when you stop recording and the light turns green, means that you can come in. Be kind of cool. So I'll investigate that a little bit to see if there is an option. All right. Because also you would think Ableton would have it so you could program your Stream Deck to do stuff, right? Yes, Bitfocus Companion has an official module for Ableton Live, specifically called Ableton OSC. Paste. Ableton OSC. I don't see it. It appears in the official Bitfocus Connections page as Ableton Community Live. Version 1.2 has the latest info, companion bundled models. The module uses Ableton OSC, a third-party bridge, to let Companion control Ableton. You can send commands, play, stop. Yeah. All right, so maybe it's just called OSC. Generic OSC. Okay, let's add OSC. Target host IP. Generic. Browse available versions. All right, well, I will investigate this because it's kind of a cool idea. Again, you would think that they would Ableton would definitely have a module for Companion, because that would enable all your Stream Decks to do stuff, right? So one step at a time. Okay, everybody. Well, you have stuck with me to the end. I appreciate that. I have not noticed. Have you noticed any network problems, any network buffering? I haven't seen anything in vMix. So I wonder if this little 20-second buffer is really working, which is great, because I'm going to leave it for sure and let my computer have a buffer, and then be done with now maybe we just have a great Starlink connection today, who knows, but we'll leave it. We'll pay attention. We'll see if we have any dropouts or anything like that over the next little while, but hey, that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty neat.
That's pretty neat.
Alrighty. Well, I'm going to get back to work, guys. So have a great week. Thank you for stopping by. I always appreciate you. It's kind of a quick show today, but network buffers, thumbs up so far. Seems to be working for me. And we'll keep testing it out as time goes along. Not entirely sure what next week is going to entail, but we're coming up on NAB. I mean, I think we only have 3 more shows, right, until the NAB show. And then the conference is from the 19th to the 22nd. And today is the 26th of March, which means that we have the 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th. And then, so for sure on the 9th, we need to talk about what we're planning on seeing at NAB. I don't think next week's makes any sense. But then the 16th will be the week before we leave. And then I will be at NAB, and then I'll be back for the 23rd. So we won't miss a show, that's for sure. But I will be trying my best to upload. I'll be uploading the day after. So I will record videos, and then the plan is to record videos at booths, edit them in the evening, schedule them for the next day. And so you'll see on Monday me on Sunday doing things on the floor and giving updates on things that we're seeing. We have a much bigger list this year than we did last year, so I hope to be making a lot more videos than I did last year. I've also gotten a little bit better with my selfie gimbal, my 360 Flow 2, so I'm hoping that that makes it a little bit simpler. I'm not too sure about audio. Last year I brought We could do a whole show on this. Last year I brought a little hip recorder, which I thought was up here. It's a little Zoom F1 recorder that just snaps onto your belt. Super simple. Just hit the record button, and off you go. But you need to have. Here it is. I knew it was up here. So this little guy is the Zoom. Oops. Let me try and get her in the light a little bit. So there you go. It's my little field recorder, and it has a headphone jack. It has a microphone jack. It just clips on your belt. And you just hit the little boom record button, and if you see it flashing, it's recording. I had an ear in last year, and I wired a microphone into my hat. That seemed to work pretty well. Matter of fact, let's just go to studio, and kudos to the person who just subscribed to the channel. I saw that happen. Thank you. Always appreciate you guys following the channel for more, and I'm just going to throw this up here while we're here. Not that one. Do this one. This is my new little thing here. Okay, so let's just go to videos and NAB, and let's have a quick little listen to how this sounds. Show this here, and then...
AV booth, had a chance to talk to both Laurent and to John Hinkle, who are major players back in my Bird Dog days when it came to AV networks. John was a guy that outfitted us with all of the switches that we needed to do testing and to make sure everything was rock solid. And Laurent was obviously or Laurent. I always get it confused, and really I apologize. He was the guy that helped me configure and map out exactly what the design needed to be. And so a big shout out to them. They were big players in my Bird Dog days and still support me in my new position with our AV network, which is a lot.
Okay, so you notice here, I'm wearing an ear. I've got a little earpiece on, which is basically just a, that's like a security headset, I think. I don't think that's actual headphones. I think it's just a one-ear mono that's plugged into the top of this pack.
Lighter.
Derpy face.
We're probably getting into Dante and a little bit of AV over IP stuff.
And it's just a simple little earpiece, which I left in most of the day. Oh my gosh. Guys, I'm so sorry.
Really great to finally see them again, shake hands, and really kind of make some connections, but also talk about where we're at, where we've been, and also a little shout out to the AV support guys.
All right, so you can see my earpiece here, which is just a little tiny thing, just for monitoring, essentially. And that piece might even still be up here, but it was pretty simple, and I could clip it onto my shirt so it would never like fall down, and it was just one earpiece. So that was pretty easy, like pretty simple stuff, but it was like one more wire. You had to like make sure. So this was clipped on full time onto my belt, and it just runs off of batteries, which is nice. You can also run it off of a power bank. Oh, you know what? It wasn't clipped on my belt. I'm wearing a bag. That's what it was. So this bag here is a side bag that had my camera stuff in it. And the question is, do I want to do the side bag again, which kept me pretty light and versatile, but it, a backpack might be easier. I don't know. Everybody's got backpacks at this show, so maybe not.
Some of the best, if not the best, in the AV industry when it came to supporting this year. I don't see any other AV networks here, a bit further off the beaten track.
This is
they have their whole team here. It seems like they're
pretty
serious about their presence this year. I don't see any other AV networks here at NAB, and so
I just want to,
for making it a priority.
The video looks pretty good. It was pretty fast. And you can get the whole booth in the background. I did one little B-roll, which I think I'll do more of, because it's better than looking at me the whole time.
Shout out to them. They were big players in my Bird Dog days and still support me in my... let's head on over to the next booth.
Anyway, so yeah, there's lots of fun stuff to kind of navigate through, I guess, is what I want to say there. So... The sound quality is pretty good. I had it taped into my hat, and it was a black hat, and so I just ran it around, and it ran down my back and then down into this recorder. And so I feel like that was a good rig, and it was one that I could wear all day. Wear it on my hat. I don't have to worry about, even if I interviewed people, which I don't think I did. Do I have any interviews? No, I didn't do any interviews. So I'm going to just stick with that, I think. And so on the 16th, we will build the wearables for we'll build the wearables for the 16th, and then I'll be ready to go get all that gear together. I do have in-ears and stuff like that I could use instead, but it seems like overkill. I just really want it to be pretty much like not noticeable. I don't want people to know that I'm wearing a bunch of stuff, but I would rather be able to monitor my audio to make sure it's coming through clearly. And then the nice thing about that is if it's monitored, then it doesn't even matter if you're wearing the ear. If it's on, it's on. The reason why I wore that backpack, though, is because I had battery banks. I had a couple of battery banks. And so if the camera started dying, I could charge it. Or if my phone started dying, I could charge it. I'm definitely doing that again this year. So I think I will need some sort of bag. Maybe I'll use that camera bag, but not take my giant camera, which did I do that last year? I remember when I got there to NAB, all my stuff had been left out in the rain, and they had put my rolly bag under the plane. And so, yeah, it all got soaked, and it stunk. But I showed up, and I hung up all my clothes, and I went to dinner. Hey, of course that means that the chat is delayed. It is delayed, however, not as bad as you think. Well, I mean, yeah, the chat is delayed, yes. But it was about this anyways before. So I'm not too, that you said that 9 minutes ago. I'm not too worried about the chat necessarily being like totally in sync all the time. But what was I doing? Oh, I know what it was. Let me just grab this photo real quick. So last year, albums. I think I've got an album in here called NAB Stuff. Christmas. It's a long time ago. Here we go. NAB shows. This is last year's. So yeah, this. Okay, so this was, I showed up and my bag was soaked. Oh, and there's that little side bag you can see. So all my clothes, I grabbed all the hangers I could and I hung them all up because everything was soaking wet. And then I was like, well, I sent this to my wife. I was like, well, I got bunk beds for just me, and I got 2 queens, and all my gear is wet. So I had to hang it all up to dry, which is unfortunate, but it's kind of just the nature of how things go sometimes. You can't get too excited. I mean, with this show, the chat is always sort of late. Maybe. It's not too bad, though. All right. I'm going to sign off. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're just watching. Always helps me out big time. Just letting me know who's paying attention and helps YouTube know, hey, this guy's actually doing stuff. So, good times, great oldies. But be well, take care of yourselves, and we will see you guys in the next one, which will be next Thursday. That's the plan. And pay attention to the YouTube announcements. I will try and put the show up mid-next week to let you know what we're going to talk about. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.